This video brought to you in part by J&H Aerospace, your source for advanced free flight and RC airplane kits, components, and accessories. jhaerospace.com. This video also brought to you by Windcatcher RC, your source for carbon fiber, EPP foam, and other RC accessories. windcatcherrc.com.
Alright, so the question that any person in their right mind is asking is, why in the world are you doing this? And the answer is, this is what I've been hoping to do for a long time. So I had this idea a long time ago of building a very large unlimited class rubber model, nothing this size. And I've flown unlimited class for many years. Started about 2008 was my first effort in that. And so the models progressively got bigger from 36 inches up to 42 and then larger. Now we've got the Dawn Patrol that's 68 inches. That's a wonderful airplane. I love it so much. Anyway, about September of last year, that's September 2022, James Womsey released a video that he and I had actually been corresponding about. He had asked for some advice on power requirements for a large rubber model in the 11-foot range. And so I gave him my ideas for what to do, and he released his video on the world's largest rubber-powered airplane. And as I understand it, he got the Guinness World Record for that. That video, of course, went viral, and so I suddenly had people asking me, so Josh, what are you going to do to top that? And at first I was like, well, I'll do something. And then I got a call from Lee Krieger over at Windcatcher RC. Lee is the guy that supplies our carbon fiber. And he is a supplier for EPP foam sheets, has a few kits out. Currently he's out of production on the kits, but he'll be bringing those back online in the near future. But he's the big carbon fiber importer for North America for the hobby side of things. And so we've used his carbon since he started up operations. Lee came to me, and as he's sponsored several other projects, came to me and says, so what can you do to top this? How can I help you make it happen? And so I looked at what he was wanting to do, which was to, initially to build a larger airplane that would hopefully fly a little better. And because he knew that I had uncorked some big ones in the past, like the Dawn Patrol, and that they were nationally competitive and had put up big flights. So he knew we could do something fairly spectacular, because here we've got the tools to make high-performance rubber models. It's what we do, and we like them big. But the project kind of morphed from there, because I said, wait a minute, I've been wanting to do something for a while, and I've proposed this, and we've talked about it, and then I drop the ball or get distracted on other things, and then it comes back, and then so on and so on. In 1964, the Soviet Union funded the last in a series of major record attempts in the free flight world, because they were the last ones that they hadn't gotten, and those were the rubber power altitude and endurance records. These are not things of, it flew a couple hundred yards or whatever. This is in 1963, I believe it was, either that or earlier in 64, they got a rubber model to fly for 170 miles. That's not as hard as it sounds. You just got to pick a big thermal. The same thing with the rest of it. They got a plane to stay up for an hour and 41 minutes and went about 1,700 meters up, something like that. And so I kept looking at that and saying, well, if we can do something other than having to follow an airplane up in a Cessna, validate the data with altimeters or whatever, we could do better. And so initially that was a matter of the problem being getting the FAI to accept that. Well, in recent years, the FAI has come up with an approval process for altimeters, GPS systems, etc. for model airplanes. They've had things for full scale for accurate validation of the data, but for models, aero modeling, CIAM, which is the aero modeling subcommittee, has now come up with specifications for that. So I said, all right, now it's time to go for this. We build the biggest rubber-powered airplane in the world, we go uncork it into the biggest thermal imaginable, and we chase it. We can keep a monster in sight for a long while. It does not have to be a great performing airplane. It just has to fly okay, and we have to get it trimmed out so it'll stay in a thermal once we launch into it, and go from there. Well, I wanted an airplane that would do better than fly okay, so I scaled up the Dawn Patrol 300%. And here it is. I didn't upscale all of it 300%. The fuselage cross-section and structure is only scaled up 200%. The propeller is less than 200% because this is a 45-inch prop, so 200% would be 52 inches since it's a 26-inch prop standard. This you'll see in a minute how we put it together. It's utter insanity. It weighs almost a pound with the nose block. It's grossly overweight, but it's a thing. And it does in fact work. It's insanity. It also needs to be balanced, but we'll do that before we maiden it. And yes, there is a lock on it if you didn't notice that it goes bonk. Alright, so we've done some mock-ups of the whole airplane, but this is the first time I've put it in the stooge. This stooge was made by Stephen Wrigley. To his well, he had the parts for the top laser cut and then welded everything up himself, so it's a hitch stooge. We have everything else here mocked up. I've just got this held in with a C-clamp right now because we've got to come up with a better mount. Ideally, I'm going to come up with something in the next week that comes along here and has a crossbar. Whatever, that's all neither here nor there. This area is still floppy as far as the junction between the front and the back, the tail boom and the motor tube, to be more specific. So we're going to have this bolted in place, and so we're going to have a sheath of plywood that comes over, bolts through top and bottom, and that'll take care of the flexibility there. On the Dawn Patrol, that's just rubber banded in, but it would be way back here on the Dawn Patrol, so the loads at that junction would be less. So we're doing it there because the fuselage becomes unwieldy otherwise. It's just the only really convenient way to do it as far as traveling with this monster. Fin is installed, as y'all have seen before. It is, of course, removable, and stab plate and so on. So in the next couple of days this will all come together and it'll be done. For the first time I'm doing kind of isolated electronic systems, so the dethermalizer, the entire dethermalizer assembly and control is going to be back in this area because the weight of having that little bit back here is not going to really impact things. So there will be no dethermalizer electronics further forward. We will have a pod somewhere here for avionics. We'll have another one up front. We'll have a camera on the wing or something. We've got a run cam that'll work for that. And so the weight of the electronics is kind of negligible in this. We're going to use much larger batteries than normal for the avionics and telemetry on this airplane, just because we need something that's got several days endurance in case anything does go horribly wrong and the plane wanders cross country and we have a hard time finding it. Because if we have to rent an airplane and go up searching for radio signals, we need several days endurance. But hopefully that's not going to happen. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. We'll see what the weather's like. As we've mentioned before, this is a reverse Montreal stop propeller. So the way that it works is when you pull forward, we're spring loaded, so when you pull forward and the prop shaft comes over and engages, it locks against this with friction, and so the prop hub doesn't come back. When the power backs off, so as this thing rotates around, as the power backs off, this will swing back, and then it'll come around and lock just like that. The shaft actually would drive it around. And so this is the same mechanism that's on the P1B1 Sky Voyager and anything of that nature. If we look behind the nose block, this is just the back end of a sidewinder, the rubber winder. And so right now we've just got this little stirrup. We're going to put something bigger in here that can hold more rubber. Basically, it's going to be a tying together of two of these side by side so we can handle the amount of power that's needed. Because we just can't fit enough rubber on this to power the airplane. So we'll basically we'll put a pin or a cross bolt, something through here to hold either two of these or two T-hook Crockett hooks or something of that nature, and that'll take care of that problem. So it'll be fairly easy to maneuver. The biggest problem is that we're going to have some sort of pin that runs through here, because human hands will not be able to grab two of these and hold on to them particularly well. We're not configured to use a blast tube on this, unfortunately. And I just kicked my pad off of here, so this is one of the hazards to the airplane. Right now we don't have any sheeting on there. I may sheet that area over, we'll see. But this is kind of where we're at. We're covering the flying surfaces right now, and that's just covering a big rubber model, you know, or a big airplane in general. Nothing special there. Fuselage is going to get polyspan all the way down it, which is just a covering material I've found to have good puncture resistance. And so it'll take a fair amount of aircraft dope to seal it, but other than that, no big deal there. That'll give us good torsional rigidity. We're going to hopefully put 2 layers of polyspan down the bottom, just be on the safe side, but everything else is very, very conventional rubber power stuff. I'm using heavier covering materials than I typically use on a rubber model on the wing, just to ensure that it's rigid enough, because we're getting plastics that are kind of stiff, but nothing outlandish there. And we're going to run approximately 26 strands of 1/4 in it. May up that to 28 so I can have 2 14-strand motors. We'll see. Something of that nature. I think that'll turn the propeller with plenty of speed to generate thrust to get a good climb going. We don't really need a big climb to get this to set the record. If this thing gets out of ground effect, say up to, you know, not even treetop level, that's going to be enough, because all we have to do is launch it into lift. If it gets up to treetop level, it'll have a 1.5 minute endurance, and that's long enough to core into a thermal and head on up. So I'm not terribly worried about any of that. So we had some initial concerns, or at least I did, about being able to fly this, because this is a lot of power, and Alex Andrikov, multi-time world champion, told me that this will handle 200 inch ounces, that I'm not sure my wrist and my arm will, or even my body. So I had some concerns about that. However, what we're looking at here is that the airplane has the equivalent scaled up of a little more than a P-30 propeller on a Dawn Patrol. And that's enough power to get that airplane going on fairly low torque. So I figured this propeller will be able to get us going probably on 100 inch ounces. We'll be able to get up out of ground effect. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. And so this project is starting to look a little more achievable, which is good because it's going overweight. I don't know how heavy it is. I haven't even weighed a lot of stuff, but we know that it's heavy, and so there's that issue. But 3.5 ounces per square foot is a very light wing loading in the grand scheme of things, especially for an airplane of this size, so should be pretty good.
sponsored by Windcatcher RC.
Alright guys, I am here with Lee Krieger, and Lee Krieger has made this video possible through a generous contribution of, first of all, a very nice winder. We've talked about that in a few previous videos. That is the Andrikov 5-to-1 Wakefield winder. So, Lee's not used to doing this part on camera. This is the fantastic part, and I love it. Lee is our supplier for carbon fiber, so he has the best prices in the business. And go check. You cannot beat his prices. I promise you can't. I've tried. Lots of people have. Check out Windcatcher RC at is windcatcherrc.com.
Windcatcherrc.com.
Why in the world are you doing this? And the answer is, this is what I've been hoping to do for a long time.